Hello, Sarston here. Go ahead and have a seat. I've gathered you all here for a test in perception. You will each see the same two buttons. One is for a like of the video and one is to subscribe to the channel. I will ask each of you to state whether they are liked and subscribed or not. Alright. Number 1. Liked and subscribed. Number 2. Liked and subscribed. Number 3. Liked and subscribed. Number 4. Liked and subscribed. And number 5. That's you, viewer. With any luck, you agreed that the buttons below are confirmed to be liked and subscribed, ideally by actually liking and subscribing, but assuming you haven't, now's a good time. Alright, I was aiming to manipulate you toward a goal, but this was a similar test done by Solomon Asch, in what we know today as the Asch Conformity Experiments, or the Asch paradigm if you want to be hip. So let's get into it. In 1951, Dr. Solomon Asch, a PhD in social psychology, designed an experiment to test how well people will conform to the norm or those around them. In his main experiment, 8 participants would be brought into a room and told they would be tested on their perception ability. They would, as a group, be shown a set of lines similar to what is displayed here, and in turn be asked to state what line on the right matched the same length as the one on the left. I hope we can all agree the one that matches here is pretty obvious. After all, the experiment was designed to give a pretty easy and obvious answer, and the results are about what you'd expect. People have really horrible perception. You didn't choose A, did you? Exactly. It was A. You have poor perception. You need your eyes checked. Go make an appointment right now and have them looked at. Okay, stop. Put down the phone for your appointment, I was kidding. And the torch, and the pitchfork. Don't hop in the comment section to tell everybody how stupid I am. Of course the line doesn't match A. Is Sarston an idiot? No, I'm not. At least, I don't think so. Anyway, this was the fun of the experiment. I left out one key detail. Only the 8th person was a test subject, purposely seated to be last in responding. The other 7 were actors, and the test subject did not know that. First off, there were 50 test subjects, all male college students, and another 37 in the control group. Subjects were given 18 trials. The first and second trial, the actors gave the correct answer. The third trial, however, the actors would all give the wrong answer. Then it all came down to the actual test subject. Would they give the correct answer, or would they give an answer that went with the group? This was done 11 out of the remaining 15 trials as well. In the control group, as in everybody was a test subject, no actors, the error rate was less than 1%. In the experiment group, however, the results were correct at a rate of 63.2%. But shockingly, over a third of the responses went along with the wrong answer the rest of the group gave, at 36.8%. In other words, a full third of the responses with what Asch describes as the, quote, obvious answer, got it wrong. But we look at those numbers further and find it more interesting. None of the participants always went with the crowd. But those figures I just gave you, they're a bit misleading. When I said 63.2% of the results were correct, I didn't mean 63.2% of people all got the right answer. I mean, that's the correct results in total. Alright, actually this is getting a little bit messy. Let me show it to you this way. Out of all the 50 participants, only 25% of the people in the study defied the majority and got the correct answer every time. The other 75% of people got at least one of the answers incorrect. And in all the 18 trials across the 50 participants, or 900 results, 63.2% of those were correct. Some people conformed with the group most of the time, some did only here and there. I think a lot of people who cover this topic don't seem to catch that little difference, that little detail. 3 out of every 4 people in the experiment ended up giving the wrong answer at least once in a test, where the control group got it right 99% of the time. Subjects were interviewed afterward, and it gets even more interesting. As you would expect, many of the participants felt doubt, a lack of confidence, and wanting to fit in with the rest of the norm. The summary of the experiment pulls 2 people from the subjects and interviewed them. The first is described as an independent. One of the men who got all the answers right beyond the majority saying otherwise. They describe that in the disagreeing answers, he gave a politer response of 3, sir, or 2, sir, which he didn't do when replying with the crowd. He gave coy comments, turning to his neighbor and saying, I can't help it, that's 1. Or, I always disagree, darn it! Afterward, he simply said, I called them as I saw them, sir. When pressed for whether he thought the others were wrong, he tried to give a middle ground, offering what he saw was what he saw, and what they saw was what they saw. He admitted at times to wanting to just say, heck with it, I'll just go along with the rest. The other subject, one labeled yielding, went with the majority 11 of 12 times. The summary points out he seemed nervous and a little confused, but eager to engage in discussion. Admitting if he went first, he probably would have answered differently. He mentions that he probably would have changed his answers if they didn't seem so confident in theirs. In explaining it further, he assumed there was some sort of illusion the others were subjected to, but not himself. The summary concludes of this individual that he, quote, lost clear reasons for his actions and can make no reasonable decisions. 3 descriptions were given about those who yielded to the group. The first was distortion of perception under the stress of group pressure. These few simply believe that the majority must be correct and more or less just didn't think much past that. The second was distortion of judgment. Most of the subjects fit into this category. They are noted to having a lack of confidence and found serious doubt in their judgment. In other words, whenever they got a different answer as everybody else in the group, they figured they must have missed something and went along with the group's opinion. The third was distortion of action. These people were completely aware that the answer the group was giving was wrong, but didn't want to appear different or defective to the group. In short, they caved to the group pressure so they didn't feel left out, but were well aware it was the wrong answer. It's worth noting that in both cases of those who did agree with the group and those that stood their ground, it's pretty clear that the pressure to go with the group weighed heavily. Even the quarter of people who did stand their ground found themselves wavering. The story isn't over, however. Frankly, that's really scary so many people tested were willing to go along with the wrong answer to conform to the group. But what happens if we modify the test a little bit? And that's exactly what Asch thought. He changed the testing to include one, as he calls it, true partner. There were 2 variations. The first of the variations had 2 test subjects, seated 4th and 8th, with the remaining seats being actors that performed the same as before. The other so-called true partner would be an actor who, instead of giving the wrong answer with the rest of the group, gave the correct answer and was also the 4th seat. And how did the test subject respond in each of these situations? With the second test subject, there were 10.4% errors. With an actor giving the correct response, it was down to 5.5%. In other words, if you're in a group of people all giving the wrong answers and you speak up with the right answer, you're giving a strong incentive for someone else to also give the right answer too, who was too hesitant to answer correctly. There's hope in the world. However, the effects of removing this partner, or them arriving late, gave a result that shows an effect, but doesn't completely stand. By having the partner desert the correct answer midway through testing, a test subject's groupthink would go back up. 28.5% error rate in this case in comparison to 5.5%. Similarly, the actor that comes in late answering correctly will seem to inspire the test subjects to be correct too, bringing the error rate down to 8.7%, but still the summary notes, quote, "It is our impression that having once committed himself to yielding, the individual finds it difficult and painful to change his direction." Essentially, it's admitting to being wrong the whole time, so chooses to continue to be wrong to avoid that. How about the number of people involved? When a test subject was paired off with one actor, there was almost no error, comparable to the control group. When a test subject and 3 actors were together, however, all 3 actors giving the incorrect answer, the conformity was in full force the most. Groups greater than this seemed to give about the same result. I personally find this a very eye-opening experiment, but remember at the beginning of this video where I mentioned your answer was wrong? That the line A was the correct line and not C, which is actually the correct line? That gave you a bit of a reaction, didn't it? Were you annoyed? Laughing? Maybe angry? Maybe you had a buddy or two watching at the same time. Imagine that for a second if you didn't. How would they react? And you? You all would think I'm a complete moron, right? Like, get a load of this guy. Well, Asch thought of that too. He ran a version where there was one actor that gave the wrong answer, as before, and the rest of the group were test subjects. I'm just going to have to quote from the summary. Under these conditions, the members of the naive majority reacted to the lone dissenter with amusement and disdain. Contagious laughter spread through the group at the droll minority of one. Of significance is the fact that the members' lack of awareness that they drew their strength from the majority, and that their reactions would change radically if they faced the dissenter individually. In fact, the attitude of derision in the majority turns to seriousness and increased respect as soon as the minority is increased to 3. Whether you're a minority or a majority, whether you're asserting your view or holding back the overwhelming majority, we all turn to social support to provide us power and stability. I want to thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm excited to bring more content in the near future, and just as this experiment demonstrates, I could really use that social support to know I should be bringing more on the channel. Until next time.